Hey guys, so I made some more, as you can see. This one I put a little bit of a more rustic finish on, so we got two. This one's pointier than this one, so this is 36. I want to keep number 36 because I need one for myself to play around with and test and see if there's anything wrong with it. This one, I accidentally bit the grinder a little deep here in the middle, so I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of thin right there. Shouldn't be a problem, but it's just, yeah, annoying that happens. But overall, this is the construction of the knife, and if we look at some of the drawings, oh, nice coffee stain on my drawings, it's pretty close. So the curvature in the handle here for these ones, it's there because I had other ideas of what to do with these. They were actually going to be like the standard older model where it's just the paracord wrap. When I forge more of these, they're going to have straighter, handles, flatter handles. It just makes it easier, and I don't think the curvature is completely necessary, but here we have it. And the way I'm wearing this one now, so I just have it around my neck for now for the video. This is my neck knife, but this works as a neck knife. It's a bit large, but it's right there. It feels good. But the way I've been wearing this is actually as a boot knife. It goes there really well, and part of the reason is because it's just so narrow, the whole entire profile. It's not too heavy. The thing I like the most though about these is that the handle just feels like it's not. It has some weight to it, but not in a bad way, and like in a really good way. It feels very, very good in the hand. The weight is spot on. So here's the long one. You guys saw that in the previous video. I need to make one of these for myself next. But isn't that sick? I posted it on a Facebook Finnish puukko seura. I was like, hey, check out the rivet lock puukko long and the rivet lock puukko medium, these two. I was like, that's not a puukko. Like, not necessarily, but I think, the funny thing with the term puukko is that, like in Finland, if you're part of like a knife community and you collect knives and you make knives and stuff like that, then a puukko, this is not necessarily a puukko. But if you go into markets and you're selling knives to all the locals, wherever you are in Finland, the grannies will call even a Bowie knife a puukko. When I went moose hunting in Suomussalmi, we even got a bear, and I got to skin a bear. I had a Bowie knife on me, and it was on my belt. And the guy that lived there, who owned like the facilities where everybody stayed, all the hunters stayed, was like, minkälainen puukko toi on? It's like, what type of puukko is that? It's like, and he was calling a Bowie knife a puukko, and this is the most indigenous type of Finnish person in the world. This is like, he owns a bear observation lodge where moose hunters go to stay, and it's like he has a name for all the bears. Each bear, he knows them all in that region, and so when it comes to terminology, it's kind of a funny thing. I called it rivet lock puukko because the earliest rivet lock puukkos had Scandi grinds, and they were very much like puukkos, full steel little puukkos. And I got to the point where I got a new machine where I can do these hollow grinds, and I like the hollow grinds. I think it's nice, and it allows you to have a very thick spine, but it also allows you to, over time, as you're sharpening it, keep that thickness behind the edge consistent. So I've become a really big fan of hollow grinds, and some could argue that any knife made in Finland is basically a puukko, but it doesn't matter. I think names are just names, and maybe if it bothers a lot of people, we might have to change the name at some point in time. I like the term rivet lock puukko because I can also RLP, right, can also work with rivet lock bikal. So I have the rivet lock puukos and the rivet lock bikals, and they're all under the same name. But so these here are excellent boot knives. This is how I've been wearing them. I've been wearing them as boot knives. Here's the sheath. And yeah, I just got a pop-up of another person complaining that I used the wrong name for these on the... So the only real addition that I need to focus on next is finding a system for these sheaths, right, where the scratching doesn't occur on the surface, really. So, but I'm sure just a couple layers of tape over the bevel, some kind of, I don't know what tape, and then just, you know, cutting it down to shape and putting the cover over, and I think that'll do it. But here's another one that I made, because in the previous video I said, hey, I need to test one without, because I wanted to do the rivet lock bulk mediums without the pommel at the back. And here's one. It's not really this is definitely not a bulk. This is more like a stiletto style blade. And this feels actually quite good in the hand. But I noticed that I just really, really like that swelled pommel. So one of the funny things that happens when you have this guard is, for example, if you don't have a guard, you can slide your hand sort of anywhere along the, see, like this. But as soon as that guard is there and you make adjustments with your hand, it pushes the knife, it pushes the pommel kind of out of your pinky's way, right? So this is actually quite a long handle, but if you're making adjustments, like if you're doing this, right, it kind of does that. It goes there. Whereas with these, right, if you're making any adjustments, your fingers all stay in the same spot. So if I push the blade forwards, it doesn't, you see how it kind of pulls the pinky with it. So whereas here it doesn't, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just it feels a bit better, in my opinion, with the rivet lock. The thing is, I don't know if this would have, well, I think it could have actually worked with that. The key thing, though, is that I noticed that this does look a lot neater, the knots at the end here. This particular one, you'll see, it's quite difficult to actually do that final knot neat on these. It's actually quite difficult. And you'll see on this side, there was the right number of knots, for these knots going all the way down. And then on the bottom one, it was equal, but there was one last space where I was forced to pull that last string over. So that, you know, compared to this one where this is just astonishingly like right on, spot on. So I don't know what to do about hiding that last knot, because I mean, I don't think there's really anything I can do for now other than just continue making these as they are. Now, of course, I could do some scales, like wooden scales, but I feel like when it comes to full tang, from my experience, you don't want to use like wood. And I have wood and stabilized wood. I have all this stuff that grows out here that I've processed for handles, and I mostly keep that for the kitchen knives. The problem with a combat utility boot knife, I think these are more like boot knives. The problem with scales on those is, you know, you got 3 pins. You don't want to have 2 pins. You always want to have 3 pins, especially because if your tang bends, you're gonna have say it bends this way. If you only have 2 pins here, the middle of the wood's gonna pop out. So you have to have 3 pins to keep the center of the scales together, because if that tang starts to play around and warp, you're gonna actually pull the scales off, regardless of what the material is. And epoxy is not something you should rely on, and that's why I do like the riveted pins. But in here, the nice thing with, of course, these cords is that you're not gonna ever have that problem. If you're bending or whatever, those forces, the whole thing is gonna, like, you know, it's gonna wave and spaghetti. So you're not gonna. Another problem, of course, with the full with scales is that because you've made this entire section stiff here, if you're applying a lot of sideways force, you're translating all that energy to some point here. So if you're gonna, you know, for some reason, I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to bend this, in this current configuration, that bend is going to continue throughout the blade, right? It's going to continue throughout the whole profile, and it's going to relieve stress from the center of the blade. If you got very solid scales on your full tang, and I guess this also applies with rat tail and everything else, all that force is applied here, and you're more likely to break the blade from there. So I'm thinking, in terms of like overall strength. Another thing too is I feel like they're more slippery. In this, when you got these cords like this, I mean, this is, I don't know if you can see right under there, there's a little bit of a white speck. There's hundreds of layers of nano paracord. So we got hockey tape lining the whole tang. Then we have a full layer of nano paracord, which is, I have a spool somewhere, which is like this. And then we got the top layer of paracord. So I think this is, at least for this design, this is the best. And I'm kind of thinking also in terms of production, and a nice thing with this type of paracord handle is I can sit here and without any dust and without any failures. When you're making scales, sometimes things happen and you have to start from scratch, and you don't really get that with this. Another thing too that's nice with this is I can finish the whole knife before doing this scale. So the only real next movement, the only real next adjustment is to make it so that the space here with the sheath is not so stuck to the blade that it creates these scratches. You can't really see it on camera there. That's really annoying, because it's like as soon as the blade is finished, that happens. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if you Cerakote, it doesn't matter if you Parkerize, it doesn't matter what type of coating you do, they're all going to wear out on the field. As soon as you start carving wood and you start chopping with that blade, it's gonna wear out anyway. So it doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day, because that surface, it just looks really nice out of the box like this. This one doesn't have a sheath yet, as you can see here. So it'd be nice to at least retain that for like the out of the box experience. But either way, I'm very, very happy with this, and it certainly looks a lot better than the standard model. But the standard model was supposed to be kind of like the affordable, the very affordable, very sort of all the, as simple as possible, so I can make as many as possible and keep the price as reasonable as possible. But this is just, it feels so good. Here's the original piece of material from which this has come from. So, from here to here, I think that's pretty awesome. And this particular one, I kind of intended to make it from the beginning mine, so I left some of this forging on the spine. Oh man, this is really, really beautiful. And there's a lot of benefits as well too with this particular design, where I don't have to stamp the steel, right? I can stamp just the bolsters, right? I can stamp the maker's mark, and I can stamp the serial number on the bolsters, so there's none of that stress zones building up on the actual blade itself, which is actually like a great bonus. But yeah, I carry this now as a boot knife, so basically I just have this, I put this over my foot like that, and then this goes around my foot, and this goes up on the inside of my sock like that. Simple. So and it carries super well like that. I really do like it like that. I haven't figured out yet a way to, because the thing is with this is that you see how the handle is the kind of the heavy part here, except from here. The way to make this work as a belt knife is I would need some kind of system where the belt loop is up here, right? We will have, the belt loop there, and so that it can hang like that on your belt. I don't think it'll work with leather, because the leather is kind of soft. So if you pull up, the leather is going to pull up, and then you're going to have this kind of annoying thing. If it's all plastic Kydex, it's a bit more fragile. And then the thing is, it'll be so stiff that it might actually be a problem if you're moving your legs around. It might dig into you. It won't necessarily move around as easily. But if you have a battle vest or your boot, or even, and the thing is, you can still tie it to your belt in any direction you want. So one thing I'm gonna have to try, one thing I was thinking about is doing a 2-layer sheath, because it'll add a little weight. So 2-layer Kydex, it'll add a little weight, which might actually make it so that it's possible to carry it like this on your belt without the top heavy. Because right now, I can't add these eyelets up here. If I had an eyelet up here, the blade is stuck. This distance here is your lock. That's your locking mechanism. So, but by putting 2 layers of Kydex on top of each other and doing something cool like that, I think it'll add just enough weight to make it so that it can dangle down. And another thing too is, I think, I don't know if I could do it with the 2-layer sheath, but having the eyelets go on both sides, right? Like that. So you have eyelets on 2 sides, and then that'll make it significantly easier to do all sorts of belt attachments and stuff like that. So the nice thing when it's like this is that it's very low profile. You can slip this in your pocket. You can slip it in a bag. There's a lot of things you can do like this. You know, currently the way I carry it is I tie this around a belt or a belt loop, and then I just tuck it in my pants, or I tuck it in under my belt, and then I pull it out, and then the sheath also comes out. So, but like this, it feels really, really good. I thought maybe I would do like some kind of system where there would be Kydex going around here, and then the belt loop would come up from there. But either way, this is where we're at. And I think I'm just gonna have to do a dual pommel on everything, like a pommel and a guard on everything, and then just keep it the way it is, like this. Isn't that cool? So I like how consistent they are, and I got a lot more coming up. I got two, and the picals too. I'll show you guys later on another video. I did a pretty severe pical where the top guard is sticking out and the bottom guard and the pommel is sticking down. It actually feels really good. But yeah, how about that? How about that? Cash me outside. Cash me outside. So really, really cool. I haven't figured out a price yet. These take a really long time to make, actually, compared to the standard one. But I think the quality is really, really good, and I think the design is really, really cool. And in terms of a utility knife, it's what it's supposed to be. I think it's overall really great. And you know, it's very easy to sharpen. You got this choil there. You got your finger groove there. We got this locking mechanism here. It's just perfect. You know, you can swing this around and it's not coming out. So you don't have any unnecessary clips, unnecessary bulges, or anything like that. So if you want to support my work, you can order a scalpel from my website. They're $50 each. It's my most sold product. And I'll catch you guys later.